Hello, hello, hello. I think we're using the microphone on the thing. I think we'd set it up originally to use that. So let's use that microphone. There's nobody watching anyway. We've been live for 27 seconds. 26, 28, 31. There you see. So it's all right.
And we haven't mentioned the word business.
We haven't. So the idea of these video streams is to have a chat with somebody like Mark, who's obviously been around the block at least once, maybe twice, and have a 15-minute chat with folk once a week, maybe more than that. Who knows what will happen? But the idea is to set it up so we've got a bit of a routine so people can tune in, watch this, and then over lunch. Now, let's just get straight into it, Mark. We were talking before and we sat down, and you said about back in the old country,
the old days,
in the good old days. Come on, tell us that story. You were running a factory, or you were running the planning department, or whatever.
No, it was.
What was it?
It was a construction site up in Scotland, and the Scotties are well known for being chauvinist, and it took me quite some time to convince them they would have to wash up their own pots and not have the secretary do it for them. Even the secretary didn't like.
When was this? What year?
Oh,
after the motor car was invented, or before?
Just after the motor car was invented, and then we had biplanes. But this was a 4-year project that culminated in me being resident in Scotland for 2 years. Well, not exactly resident. I would fly up on a Monday and fly back on a Friday. It was always good to be in Berkshire. But that's life. You have to earn a crust. And I always found.
Come on, tell us about the tea. This is about the tea.
The tea.
The tea. Get on
the tea. The tea. Yeah.
Got to keep him tuned in.
Well, one of the problems was when we opened up the site, which was probably one of my major problems, was to convince the guys up there, the engineering team we moved up there, that when they had tea or a coffee, they not only had to make it themselves, but they'd also got to wash up their pot. Because if they just put it in the sink and left it, there wouldn't be a clean pot next time in an hour's time when they wanted a coffee or a tea. And they all said, well, the secretary isn't doing her job. And I said, no, the secretary isn't doing your job. Your job is you're going to make your own coffee and tea, and you're going to wash it up, and you're going to put it to dry or look after your own pot. The secretary is not going to do it for you.
Oh, what a hero you were. I bet you went down in the annals of history there.
Yeah, anal is a very appropriate word.
The public channel. Public channel.
Yeah.
So you have done a lot of stuff, haven't you, in your time, doing all the engineering and planning and bits and bobs. But latterly, you had a bit of fun and you set up Rent a Home, didn't you?
Right. Oh yes. With all the wisdom I could muster, Rent a Home seemed a good idea at the time. And 24 years later, I'd like to change my mind. It's gone from what I thought would be a nice, quiet retirement job, a cottage industry just run by myself. Now it is fully controlled by the government, basically, with all the legislation and restrictions. And it's now it's reached a stage where the estate agencies thought it was easy peasy. They've decided that they don't really want to do lettings much, but they make money out of it because they aren't selling the properties. But they've really made life difficult with all the legislation.
Well, the government have with all the bits and pieces. Is this Europe? Do we blame Europe for that?
No, it's not Europe. We could blame Scotland.
Well, we've got to have a blame somebody, haven't we? Who can we blame for this thing?
There are organisations that claim to help people, but what they've done is they've just made it worse. you know, made it worse for the people who rent, and they're going to make it exorbitantly more expensive for the renters. The rents have gone up, and when the renters who are working and paying the rents, they come to their end of their working life, and they realise that they're on about a third or a half of the money they were making. They're now not going to be able to afford the rent of the property that they're in.
Right.
And so they're in a bind between a rock and a hard place. They can't afford the place they're in, and they're going to find it difficult to find somewhere else. So what it's going to do is increase, in my view, it's going to push people out and increase mobility and take people away from where they were in the workplace. And they'll have to go to the seaside to live.
Will they?
No,
I don't want to do that.
No.
Well, that's all right if you're all wrinkly, but it's not very good if you're still working. That's the thing with the seaside. I mean, we just had 2 years down there, and it was fantastic. It's fantastic for the mind, fantastic to relax and take on get to a different speed. I found before that everything was too rushed. You know, we would tear ourselves along, rush. I don't want to go there again. I'm not going back up to that sort of speed. But you work smarter then. You get more intelligent about the way you do things. So it's a great place to go for a sabbatical, I guess, isn't it? You know, it's a great place to visit on your holidays. But from a point of view of work in the modern era, it isn't there. If you're a nurse or in catering or want to run a guest house and sweep up after everybody, then that works. But if you want to do a normal business, sort of a modern business, then it doesn't work because you just too disconnected. It's too difficult to have meetings.
I know what you're saying. A lot of people have got this idea that they can work from home. The internet is there; they can use it. But unfortunately, in your seaside towns that are destined for retirement, that there just isn't the infrastructure and stimulation.
Yeah.
You've got to have all those contacts that you've had, and my daughter visiting this weekend was looking forward to retirement and trying to work out with her elder sister how many years they got to retirement and how could they do it. And they were now looking at the reality. And so younger daughter says, well, property's cheap in Blackpool. And yes, property is cheap in Blackpool, but what do you do when you get there?
Get on the Big Dipper. I went on that on day 2. So that was my patch. When I worked for, who was I working for then? It was Johnson & Johnson. And I was knocking on the optician's doors, and I thought, all right, okay, I'm off to Blackpool and I'm going to go on the Big Dipper. And it was day 2, and there was an issue with it, so they put it on stop for a minute. But we did actually get going. But the guy I was with, he was a driving instructor, and he'd been on it all day the day before, and he was back again for more, and he'd been cancelling all his appointments because he just wanted to go on the Big Dipper. So there's always the Big Dipper.
There's always the Big Dipper, and there's that phallic tower out there, and a ballroom below.
Oh yeah, well you probably frequented that ballroom, haven't you, to taking some steps on there?
I'm not sure. Because I wouldn't.
You're not a dancing type.
Well, the times that I went to Blackpool in my latter years, I would have played rugby and had a few beers afterwards, and can't remember much more afterwards.
You might have woken up on the beach a few times after a skinful. So, with the old world of business and stuff, you've been a big fan, or you've been a long-time member of the BNI, haven't you?
Yes, 21 years, and I decided to hang my boots up just this August. It just seems as if, for me, it's run its course. I'm scaling the business down, and it just seems to be a logical time to say, right, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's the same with the Federation of Small Business. The FSB did a terrific reorganisation, which I've been pushing for years, and reorganised myself out of the job.
Yeah, because I put you in the post there, didn't I?
Yeah. You dropped me right in.
I'd had 5 years of being the chair of the Berkshire Federation of Small Businesses, and Mark was giving me a lift there for the next AGM, and I said to him, I think I've done my time. It's your turn. So I took him to the meeting and went, right, there you go, vote for this fella.
Yeah.
You did a few years, didn't you? 2 or 3 years or something like that. What was it?
I did 2 years as chairman, and
Yeah.
I stayed on the committee for about another 10 years.
Right.
I tend
Difficult, those committees, aren't they? Committees are difficult.
Well,
You've got to be of a certain mindset, haven't you, really?
yes. You've got to try and figure out what it is that you're supposed to be doing in the first place.
Yeah.
And try and talk about that instead of all these other peripheral things.
Yeah.
That should be handled by a head office.
Too easy for little bees to get in there and start buzzing around, and then that's niggling you, and that's niggling you, and somebody's got a bitch about that. And
the FSB had a very old-fashioned structure, and it was layered, and there was too many committees and too many meetings, and not productive enough from my point of view. They've simplified it now, and using the technology, but I'm not sure that it's going to work out. I think we're going to have to fine tune it a bit. But at least we got into the restructuring mind.
Open to change.
It's open to change, and after all,
it takes a long time, doesn't it, for anything to change?
The main purpose is lobbying Parliament and trying to be effective for all the small businesses throughout the country.
Well, that was my big thing. It was that was the focus. That was the primary focus of the organisation. So the networking was the sort of bonus aspect to it, wasn't it? It was, you supported the FSB because they had your best interests at heart. So you pay your £100 a year, and that's cool. But then, the idea is that you can then network with other businesses. I didn't really like it when they were trying to get members to drive membership. Do you know what I mean? You can have professionals doing that, can't you? You pay people.
Well, they employed professionals, and they had a professional team. And the recruiters that I knew worked very hard at it. But they, in the latter years, as fast as they were recruiting, people were falling off the edge of the table on the other side there.
Well, they always have done. A massive churn. People expect miracles.
Yeah.
People think, I think a lot of times people set up a business because they think it's going to be easy. Perhaps they've done their time in corporate and they've got a few quid put by, and they think, right, I'm going to go and do this for myself now. But they forget that badge that you're wearing when you're working for corporate opens the door. If it's of a significant size, it opens the door. You as an individual trying to have that same conversation, it's not going to cut the mustard, is it? And it probably takes people about 3 years, I think, to get ahead of steam. To get themselves to a place where they know what they're offering, and they've got something that people actually want, and they know how to go and drive the business. I think they think that joining any network, all of a sudden, as if by a miracle, all this business is going to fall in their lap.
Well, when you're in a network like that, you're not meeting similar people. They might have similar attitudes and similar mind thoughts, if you like, but they're working for themselves. They're not about to do very much for you, thank you very much.
Yeah, the mindset you've got to get into early is one of, this is a support network, isn't it? You've got to use it as that, and to have conversations about how you might do things better and how do they go about getting real business. Because nobody lands any real business from that, do they? They go along and it's a nice chat with each other, but actually you get business from knocking on the door of somebody who's really, really busy and isn't doing networking and is making money so they can spend it for you.
Well,
that's what I found.
Well, it's you're making connections and you're always looking,
yeah,
for the work, but it doesn't. You might have to meet somebody 6 or 7 times before they've got the confidence in you to get you to recommend you or give you the work.
Exactly.
They don't.
That's the relationship bit, isn't it? That's what takes time.
It takes time.
You can't rush that. You can't rush that. It doesn't happen in 30 seconds. And running up to somebody and banging a card in the hand, you're going to cut that one.
Doesn't work at all.
You just got to let it.
It's all right for card collectors. You should see my collection.
But when we moved out before, I had a whole bin about this big, huge bin that I used for laundry at one point in my life. It became my card deposit bin, and it was literally full.
Yeah.
Literally full.
Yeah.
Nope. Incoming. Let's get rid of this. Oh, damn. Here we go. I'm going to have to put this on pause. End stream. There we go. What do we have there? 16 minutes. Oh, it's gone anyway. I should chop that last minute off the video thing. That was annoying. I should have put this on stun, shouldn't I? I'll call him up. It might be something important. Oh look, it's asking me if I want to do some real-time interjection. Hi, it's John Davey calling. You just called me. Cool. Do you want to email me the details and then I'll find them up? All right. Cheers, love. Thank you. Bye bye. Right. Yeah, inquiry coming in.
Yeah. That's cool.
Here we go. Not yet. 17 minutes. 17 minutes, Mark. Right. So come on. Let's have one little final push, because I don't think these getting more than 20 minutes. People will sort of drift off a bit, I think, if they haven't already. I don't know how many we've got looking in.
I was nodding off myself. Yeah.
But if you had a top tip to give somebody who was, say, I don't know, 25 and just looking to get going on their own, under their own steam, what advice would you give them? What advice would you give the old you?
Well, be prepared to put in 25 hours a day. Nothing's going to be gained by just doing what most people who are employed do, which is work close to, well, they go to work for 8 hours a day and probably only do about 5 hours of work a day. Once you've learned how to work 8 hours of the day, then you can upgrade yourself to working not 5 days a week, but 6 days a week. and now, when you've got used to that, you begin to get used to the idea that, right, if I work 6 days a week and I do 10 hours a day, that's 60 hours a week. And the feedback I get from people who've really made it big, they will put in a lot more time than that. It's their enthusiasm that keeps them going. 10 hours a day to them is nothing. 12 hours, that's a bit more. And I'll stop for lunch.
Yeah.
They get up early in the morning.
Yeah.
I had a young lady, nothing to do with work, really. It's about rowing. And she's a physiotherapist. She's rowing. She's hoping to get into the Olympic team. She is on the water 5 days a week at 5:30 in the morning, putting her training in before she goes to physiotherapy jobs with Queen's Park Rangers.
Right.
So I think she's got the necessary dedication there.
Yeah.
So that's just a very simple one. She's got her eyes set on the Olympics. She did well in the ladies.
So she's doing something that she loves.
Yes.
She's chasing the dream around something that she actually loves, and I think that's key to this as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to be focused on something. You've got to be doing something that you really want to do in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point in doing stuff that you're sort of half believing, because it's not going to go anywhere, is it? It's just going to fall off a cliff.
Well,
You've got to be 100% behind it, and then you've got to get on and graft.
it's sheer graft, yeah. Well, there's a nice expression that goes something like, it's 5% inspiration and 95% perspiration.
That sounds about right. Yeah, good stuff, mate. Brilliant. Well, it's been good to chat. And that's the first episode done with. We had a bit of an interjection. I think I'll learn to turn the blooming phone off now. That was because you made me turn it on earlier, wasn't it? Oh, my goodness gracious, mate.
There's no point in having a phone.
We've got nobody